The Byzantine Empire was a great power for over 1,000 years. It was what remained of the old Roman Empire but in the east. Its people called themselves Romans, and they kept alive the traditions and knowledge of ancient Rome. This empire was a beacon of Christian faith in the east, a defender of Europe against invaders from Asia. For centuries its armies were strong, its merchants were rich, and its cities were centers of learning and art. The Byzantine Empire was a bridge between the ancient world and the modern one, preserving countless books and ideas that might otherwise have been lost to history forever. Its influence spread far and wide, shaping the culture, religion, and politics of Eastern Europe and Russia in profound ways. At the heart of this vast empire was its magnificent capital city, Constantinople. Founded by the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great, it was built to be a new Rome. The city was a fortress, protected on 3 sides by the sea and on the 4th by massive legendary walls that had never been breached. Its location was perfect for trade, sitting right at the crossroads between Europe and Asia. Goods from the Silk Road and spices from the east all passed through its busy markets, making the city incredibly wealthy. For anyone traveling between the 2 continents, Constantinople was an unavoidable and impressive sight, a true center of the known world. By the 1400s, however, the Byzantine Empire was a shadow of its former self. It had lost most of its land to powerful new enemies, especially the rising Ottoman Turks. The once great empire was now little more than the city of Constantinople itself, and a few small territories nearby. The city's population had shrunk, and many of its beautiful buildings were falling into disrepair. It was an empire in name only, a lonely island surrounded by a sea of Ottoman territory. The emperor in Constantinople still held his title, but his power was limited, and his great city was vulnerable, a prize waiting to be taken by a determined foe. Despite its decline, Constantinople remained a symbol of immense importance. It was the heart of the Orthodox Christian world, home to the magnificent church of Hagia Sophia. To Christians, it was a holy city, a bastion of their faith. To the Ottoman Turks, a powerful Muslim empire, conquering Constantinople was a long-held dream. Capturing the city would not only give them control over vital trade routes, but would also be a huge symbolic victory. It would prove the power of their sultan and their faith. The city, though weakened, was still the ultimate prize, a jewel that everyone wanted to possess. The man who would finally conquer the city was Sultan Mehmed II. He came to the Ottoman throne in 1451 as a young, ambitious, and highly intelligent ruler. From a very young age, Mehmed was obsessed with the idea of capturing Constantinople. It was more than just a military goal for him, it was his destiny. He believed that by taking the city, he would fulfill an ancient Islamic prophecy and secure his place as one of the greatest conquerors in history. He was a brilliant military strategist and a patron of science and art, but his focus was singular. He spent every moment planning, gathering his resources, and preparing for the final assault on the last remnant of the Roman Empire. To prepare for his great siege, Mehmed II made a number of clever strategic moves. He knew he had to control the waters around Constantinople to prevent help from reaching the city. Just north of the city, on the European side of the Bosphorus Strait, he built a powerful fortress called Rumeli Hisari. He built it directly opposite another Ottoman fortress on the Asian side. Together these 2 castles gave him complete control over the narrow waterway. Now, no ships from Christian allies in the Black Sea could sail south to help Constantinople without facing the fire of his cannons. This move effectively cut the city off from any potential rescue by sea. The Byzantine Emperor, Constantine II Palaiologos, watched these preparations with growing fear. He knew that a massive attack was coming and that his city was not ready. He sent desperate pleas for help to the Christian kingdoms of Western Europe, especially to the Pope in Rome. He begged for soldiers, ships, and supplies to help him defend the walls of his ancient capital. He warned them that if Constantinople fell, the gateway to Europe would be wide open for the Ottoman armies. He hoped that the shared Christian faith would be enough to unite the West and bring a great army to his rescue against the coming storm. Unfortunately for the emperor, very little help arrived. The nations of Europe were busy with their own wars and rivalries. The Pope did try to organize a relief force, but it was too little and too late. A deep religious divide between the Orthodox Christians of Constantinople and the Catholic Christians of the West also made cooperation difficult. In the end, only a few hundred professional soldiers from Genoa and Venice, led by a brave commander named Giovanni Giustiniani, came to join the defense. The people of Constantinople would have to face the might of the Ottoman army almost entirely on their own, with just a few thousand defenders against a force of nearly 80,000. In the spring of 1453, Sultan Mehmed II arrived before the walls of Constantinople with his enormous army. The sight must have been terrifying for the city's defenders. Tens of thousands of elite Ottoman soldiers known as janissaries set up their camps, stretching for miles outside the city's land walls. The Sultan's colorful tents and banners filled the fields, and the sound of war drums echoed across the plains. The Ottoman forces vastly outnumbered the small group of Byzantines and their Italian allies who were tasked with defending many miles of ancient fortifications. The final siege had begun, and the fate of the thousand-year-old empire now rested on its legendary but crumbling defenses. The key to Mehmed's strategy was a new and fearsome weapon giant cannons. He had hired a brilliant Hungarian engineer named Orban to build them. Orban had first offered his services to the Byzantines, but they could not afford his high price. So, he went to work for the Sultan instead. He created enormous bronze cannons, bigger than any seen before. The largest of these, sometimes called the basilic, was so massive it had to be pulled by 60 oxen, and could fire stone balls weighing over half a ton. These cannons were designed for one purpose: to smash down the Theodosian walls, the fortifications that had protected Constantinople for centuries and were thought to be unbreakable. For weeks, the Ottoman cannons relentlessly pounded the ancient walls. Day and night, the thunderous roar of the guns filled the air, and huge stone cannonballs crashed into the stone and brickwork. The defenders worked tirelessly to repair the damage. Under the leadership of Emperor Constantine the Salvatine and the Genoese soldier Giovanni Giustiniani, they would rush to fill the breaches with rubble, barrels of earth, and wooden barricades. It was a desperate and exhausting struggle. The defenders fought with incredible bravery, managing to hold back several Ottoman assaults. But they were few, and the walls were slowly but surely being battered into rubble by the constant bombardment. One of the most difficult challenges for the Ottomans was the city's harbor, the Golden Horn. The Byzantines had protected it by stretching a massive iron chain across its entrance, preventing the Ottoman navy from entering. Mehmed II came up with an incredible solution. He ordered his men to build a road of greased logs over the hill behind the Genoese colony of Galata. In a single night, his soldiers and oxen dragged dozens of his smaller warships over land, completely bypassing the chain. The next morning, the defenders of Constantinople woke up in horror to find the Ottoman fleet now floating in their harbor, threatening the city's weaker seawalls. On the morning of May 29, 1453, Sultan Mehmed II ordered the final, all-out assault. The attack came in waves. First, irregular troops were sent forward to tire out the defenders. Then came better-trained soldiers, who were also pushed back by the desperate Byzantines. But the defenders were exhausted, having fought for weeks without rest. The crucial moment came when the commander of the professional soldiers, Giovanni Giustiniani, was badly wounded. His withdrawal from the walls caused panic and confusion among the ranks. At the same time, some Ottoman soldiers discovered a small gate, the Cercoporta, that had been accidentally left unlocked, and they rushed inside, raising the Ottoman flag on the walls. Seeing the enemy flags inside the city, the remaining defenders lost all hope. The defense collapsed, and Ottoman soldiers poured through the breaches in the walls and the open gates. Emperor Constantine IV, the last Byzantine emperor, was last seen fighting bravely near one of the gates, casting aside his royal purple robes to die as a common soldier alongside his men. His body was never definitively found. With their emperor gone and the enemy inside, chaos erupted. The city that had stood for over 11 centuries was now in the hands of its conquerors. The Roman Empire, which had begun with Augustus, finally came to its ultimate end. For 3 days, as was the custom of the time, the city was given over to the victorious Ottoman army. The soldiers plundered its riches, destroying homes and looting churches. Thousands of civilians were killed in the initial chaos, while many more were rounded up to be sold into slavery. People who had sought refuge in the great church of Hagia Sophia were captured when the soldiers broke down its bronze doors. It was a tragic and violent end for the people of Constantinople. When Sultan Mehmed II rode into the city later, he was reportedly moved to tears by the sight of the destruction, and put an end to the looting, wanting to preserve the great city as his new capital. The fall of Constantinople was a major turning point in world history. It marked the definitive end of the Middle Ages and the last living piece of the ancient Roman Empire. The city, renamed Istanbul, became the magnificent capital of the powerful Ottoman Empire for the next 450 years. The event also sent shockwaves through Europe. Christian kingdoms were horrified by the loss of this great Christian city. Furthermore, many Greek scholars fled from Constantinople to Italy, bringing with them ancient books and knowledge. This helped to fuel the Renaissance, a great period of learning and art in Europe. The fall of the city also cut off old trade routes to the east, forcing European explorers like Columbus to seek new sea routes to Asia, which would soon lead to the Age of Discovery.